There's a castle in the sky.
There is a castle on a cloud.
It's a big, tall, terrible castle. Castle, 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 castle in the sky.
There's a little castle. It's also in the sky.
Okay, let's take this again from the top, but to the tune of Pizza Time song from Spider-Man PS2.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you
Got
meant
it.
Pizza, the song that the Olsen twins sing.
The castle in the sky. It's in the sky. Yes, it's in the sky. So good, so sky. Anyway, my name's Jackson McMurray.
My name's Adeline McMurray.
And I'm Tasch Ritter.
Perfect. Okay, this is No Nerds Allowed.
And there are no nerds allowed, which means we're in trouble.
Yeah, this is where the theme song goes. I don't know. It's always a chore for me trying to figure out how to edit the beginnings of these things. But I
It's
feel
not
like I work it
natural
out.
in any way, shape, or form.
I feel like it sounds like this has become a brand, though, at this point.
Exactly.
Like, you guys have found your niche, and that is no niche.
Yeah, that is
Precisely. No, yeah, that is our biggest Achilles heel as a podcast, is that we have a criminally underdeveloped premise.
Yeah.
That's
But that just became the premise.
Right.
Yeah, no, that sounds like the best tagline ever.
The
Yeah.
podcast with a
It's
criminally
like, no
underdeveloped
nerds allowed.
premise.
We have no idea what the fuck we're doing. Just
I also low-key would love a shirt that just says criminally underdeveloped on it, and that's
Yeah.
it. Like,
But anyway, listeners at home, we are here today with Tasch Ritter of Cosmonaut Tabletops and her own personal streams under a name that I don't remember at this moment.
Oh.
What's your Twitch?
my handle that I lurk on everywhere on the internet is Tosh Draws. So it's I'm a Tosh and I draw sometimes.
That makes sense. That does track. So yeah, that's who we're with today. If you're wondering who that third voice was, that's who it is.
Who is that?
Also my co-star on Find Us Alive.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about this podcast so far is that I get to see every time that Tosh dabs, but the listeners at home will not be able to.
You guys are missing out. I apologize for the lack of
You know what,
translation
you're right.
in the medium.
Usually we don't record in the same room. Like, and when we do record in the same room, whenever we do stupid stuff, like spell Dr. Pepper or whatever, we see it. But now we've got cameras this time, so I can just be, like, dabbing the whole time.
And no one will ever be any the wiser.
Yeah, and you can't say that I dabbed, because you didn't see it. You don't know.
Though we could... Here, level with me for a second. What if we
I will.
put a very bass boosted, just a... You know,
Yeah,
every
just
time the
every
dab
time.
happens.
every
like,
time
we
every time
go
you
back.
dab.
Except,
But how am I going to keep track of that? When I'm editing this later,
That's
I'm not going to
true.
know when somebody
You-
dabs.
You're
Yeah,
gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it in the audio.
Yeah,
Hold on, I think I could put a marker
you gotta use the force.
while I'm let me just do some experiments.
Boost,
Bear with
right
me here
Don't
because
ask any questions.
I might accidentally stop recording briefly, but I'm going to do my best here.
This whole operation is about to fall apart over dabbing.
Aha, I can do a marker. Okay. I could do a marker seamlessly.
Incredible. Oh my gosh.
So now every time one of you guys dabs, I'm going to
Future.
put in No, that was like 4.
You gotta click
No,
faster.
stop.
You gotta click faster, Jackson.
Our budget is just skyrocketing.
The power of my dabs.
We don't have any more dabs in the budget.
Every
Gosh.
time I dab, it costs Disney $5.
So,
That would also make a good
Tosh.
shirt. Sorry, yes.
Tosh, what movie did we watch today?
We watched Castle in the Sky by Studio
Yes.
Ghibli, released in 1986 or something like that. It's an oldie,
Yes.
but a goodie. So
The second of Hayao Miyazaki's Castle movie trilogy.
yeah.
Good one, Jackson.
Yeah, he has a lot of castle movies.
Yeah. What's the deal with castle movies and Ghibli movies? It's
So,
like,
okay.
That's the end of my Seinfeld impression.
Okay, cool. So usually on this podcast, I do a bit called Trivia Time, where I look at the IMDb trivia for a movie and just like find what horrible, awful things people have written there that don't make sense.
They're just sentences. That's not. Someone just put some words together in a new order.
Right.
Thought this is good.
But this time there wasn't anything particularly funny, except for the space that was labeled director trademarks for Hayao Miyazaki, and that was just like, there's a pig in it at this time.
Yeah.
And Hayao Miyazaki very often has pigs in his films. I was like, you're not wrong. But they didn't mention that it's literally his, I guess not his third, his second movie with the word castle in the title. That sounds like a director trademark to me.
And both of these movies don't really have castles in them if you think about it.
Yeah, true.
Howl's Moving
It's kind of a
Castle? It's just a big toad thing. That's not a castle.
Right, that's true. I guess Castle of Cagliostro is a castle, right? I haven't seen it myself, but I feel like I've seen the castle from it.
I feel like I've seen a castle. I think I know what that is.
Wait, okay. Remind me, because was that... Miyazaki did direct that one too, right? It just, I know that wasn't a Studio Ghibli specifically.
Right. Well, this is the first Studio Ghibli movie since he set up the studio called Ghibli. Mm-hmm. But before this, really did... I know his first movie was Castle of Cagliostro, and the one after that was Nausicaa, I think.
Right. Wait,
is Totoro just retroactively the logo?
I guess. I don't think he was the logo from the very beginning.
Yeah, you open this film and it has a Studio Ghibli with the little blue Totoro, but that movie hadn't come out yet, right?
Well...
it could have been something.
It was probably
where,
retroactive.
Yeah, I think it took them a while before they actually released this movie in the States.
That's
in
awesome.
particular.
Oh, definitely.
So I think it might have been that they had that set up after.
So yeah, I have some stories to tell. I have a little bit of research that I did, but I'm gonna need you guys to humor me and let me take my inhaler super quick before I start them.
Does that count as dabbing?
A sip.
I don't know. I guess I'll have to make that decision later.
Well, if you put the marker down, then it's all over.
Exactly.
I'm trying to remember.
No, don't talk. I have something to say. Just wait, though. Okay. I got clear lungs and I'm ready to talk at you. So, basically, Miyazaki is kind of one of my blind spots in terms of, movie watching. Mm-hmm. Mostly because you, Adeline, got really into it when you were younger.
Yeah,
and
so you couldn't like it. You were not allowed
exactly,
to like
it. It was something my little sister liked, and I was like, oh, that's probably lame. So
I also watched Ponyo maybe about 12,000 times in our childhood, and I think you hated Ponyo, so I think I just turned you off of it just completely.
I never watched it, really.
No.
I'm sure throughout the years I've seen the lion's share of Ponyo and Howl's Moving Castle, and I have seen Spirited Away.
Yeah.
But
because you were super into Spirited Away the first time you watched it, and then you never watched it again.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I've watched it since I was a youngin'.
That one's also very good.
Right, but for this movie particularly, I was doing some research because, Adeline, you and I, we watched the Disney dub, the John Lasseter dub.
So you guys did watch the English one.
Yes, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about, is I wanted to have a subs or dubs debate on on the show. Yeah. But apparently there were two different dubs that were manufactured, two different English dubs for this movie.
Right.
You look like you have something you want to say, Tash.
No, I was just saying, I found out about that while I was browsing the IMDb trivia stuff, yesterday. So I didn't actually realize. So I assume that I watched the Disney. I watched the one with Mark Hamill in it. That's
right.
What
Yeah. So that's the Disney dub.
Okay.
The original one they did.
That was real trivia. Why wasn't that a trivial time? That's good actual trivia.
Wait. No, I can't do regular good trivia in trivia time. I could if I wanted to. There's plenty of good trivia on IMDb. That's not funny, though.
Oh, you gotta find it for the little sour eggs.
Anyway, my point is, a lot of the old Miyazaki movies didn't really get sent over to America until Spirited Away came out, and that was like a huge deal, and it like won Best Animated Feature, and everyone was like, oh, we kind of thought Americans wouldn't like this, but it turns out they actually kind of do, so let's get this rolling again.
Mm-hmm.
And John Lasseter was the guy who was in charge of like supervising all the dubs and all that kind of stuff.
Because when you watch Spirited Away, you first have to watch like 20 minutes of John Lasseter just talking about how much he likes the movie. And it's like, let me watch the movie, John. I don't care about how much you like it. Let me watch it.
But, so yeah, apparently there was an older English dub that was just for use in Japan, just like you would make a dub of a movie regularly in Spanish or whatever. There was an English one that got distributed in Japan. But then, like 10 years later, when they finally released it on home video in the US, Disney was like, "Oh, we're gonna get Anna Paquin and James Van Der Beek and Mark Hamill and all these guys to lend some name recognition to it." Yeah, but that's just the thing that I always find interesting is that, like, you know, in the 21st century, movies, like, even, like, foreign movies, like, there are very few situations in which you just, like, can't get a hold of a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, like, now, I don't know, even, like, 20 years ago, before Spirited Away came out, in America, you just, like, you didn't have them. Yeah. You couldn't get at them. And it took that long for, like, My Neighbor Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service to be in America at all. So, Tash.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Oh, I mean, unless you had something else you wanted to say.
No,
you seem like a subs person.
I'm actually a huge fan of both subs and dubs. Right. I get like the debate, and I can see why people like or dislike either one. But since I have a background in voice acting, and it's one of the things I'm pursuing, I really love watching English dubs to kind of like see like the actors' performances and be able to kind of like gauge a little bit, because I mean, obviously, like super old, like earlier dubs, let's be honest, like quality could be hit and miss sometimes, and so
right, yeah.
But like more current and recent things, it's I like watching both. I usually watch like sub first, because that's usually what's available first, and then I'll rewatch later with the dub and be like, oh yeah, I like what they did, or I see how they tried to adapt their performance to for different contexts, because it will always be different. And so instead of trying to just try to match what the original VA in the other language did, like they're giving the character their own flavor, and I really like that. And this is one of the movies where, even though it was a lot older, like the quality that they put into the dub, I really enjoyed the performances. So I was, I don't know. I feel like this is one of the few pretty good ones from like earlier on.
Right.
That weren't like garbage. No. So.
Right. But yeah, I don't know. And it's so interesting because like when you're watching a foreign movie that's in a different language, it will never be fully the experience it was meant to be to you. Yeah. Like no matter what you do. Like with subtitles, it changes your viewing experience because you have to engage with it in a different way, and you have to be fully invested in the thing, otherwise there's like a really large separation between you and the movie, you know? If you look away at something for a moment, you will like literally miss dialogue, events of the film. But on the other hand, if you are just doing a dub in another language, there's a lot of subtleties of translation, and just you're throwing away the original voice acting that was done specifically for the film as it was meant to be seen, you know?
Yeah. And
so
there's always that added level of difficulty too, though, where they recorded and then the animation was made like for that recording.
Exactly.
And so there's also the fact that you're having to match previously existing stuff and just match up your performance with the lip flaps and somehow nail all those subtleties and all the emotion stuff. Like, it's very challenging. So I honestly have like massive respect for the VAs that
and even ones stuff like this that are like really highbrow, like professionally produced, there are some times where they're just like, just because languages are different and some phrases are longer or shorter in different languages, where they have to be like, What's that? What's over there? What are you doing? Instead of just saying it like a regular person.
I loved the like pirate goons in this movie because I could tell it was like a little bit the voice actors having fun and a little bit being that Japanese phrases are maybe a little bit longer than American phrases because they'll be like in the background and you can just hear them going like, "What are you guys doing over there? What's up? Are we flying over here? When's lunch?" And it's really funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Something I did learn about this Disney dub of this movie in particular, though, was apparently they commissioned a much longer score for this audio track.
Really?
Apparently, yeah, there's a lot more silence in the original one, but John Lasseter decided that American audiences wouldn't like that, so they had the guy come back in like 15 years later and write like 30 more minutes of music to just fill in the spaces of all the spots that he didn't write music for before.
Remember that thing you did 15 years ago? Can you do more of that?
Yeah.
I mean, he was paid.
Well, yeah, no, I know.
He is a composer.
Yeah. That is one thing that kind of bugs me is that, like, American audiences, a lot of times we, like, can't handle silence or, like, quiet in our movies very much. Like, I think a movie like this, it makes sense. I didn't actually know that there was, like, additional music added. Like, I don't mind the silence so much. It's kind of nice to have, like, something more, like... I don't know if meditative is the right word, but you get what I mean.
Right.
Like, so I'm not surprised, I guess, that happened, but I also, like, do you think that that's improved at all recently? I feel like maybe it has, like, where people are not
like
trying to...
we're in an era where people are more likely to be aware when changes like that are made. I feel like in 1995 or whenever it was, they released this new dub and this is the first way that people have ever seen it and they're just like, oh yeah, this is what it is, that's cool. But in the 21st century with the internet, you could say like, oh, there's this Japanese movie coming over, and when they did a new dub, they also added a whole bunch of music, and people would say, well, that's lame, why don't you keep it the same? I feel like there's a much better... We have more information about movies now, and we also, I think there's a greater... At least among people who are into it, like, there's a greater want for originality, for like true to the original vision of the thing versus just what our culture wants, quote unquote.
I mean, this probably
what
isn't...
What are you giggling at, Adeline?
This probably isn't a good comparison, but just like the speed of information about things being changed. Like, as soon as Cats was released, everybody knew that the animation wasn't done. It's like that kind of thing. It's like... It's like Sonic being fixed. It's like that kind of thing. Like, stuff that used to be, like, insider, like, knowledge is now just, like, on Twitter immediately. Somehow. I don't know how, but it is. I don't know what kind of spies they have in California that are just immediately on Twitter as soon as something goes wrong, but they're there, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, film journalists.
I mean, yeah. but how do they know, Jackson? Who told them?
But yeah, and like, I don't know, it's really interesting because there's such a greater availability of like foreign movies, it's always been interesting to me that like English dubs have always been a popular thing to do with animated movies, but it's never really crossed over to like live action things.
Yeah,
like it seems to me like the thing I think about right now is Parasite, which is like this huge deal and everybody's talking about it and everybody is like so into Parasite, and it seems like a slam dunk home run for them to be like, oh yeah, let's get Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt in here, get them to do the voices of these guys in English. That way you can get extra name recognition and it's more accessible to a wider audience, and you can presumably make a lot more money from distributing it in the US. But I don't know, they don't do that.
I mean, I think it's the fact that it's a person that we kind of can't have that suspension of disbelief so much. Like, with an animated character, it's not a real person, so if it sounds like Mark Hamill, you're not like, that's Mark Hamill, you're like, that's whoever that is. But when it's a real person, it's like, I know that that's not Bruce Willis, and it's weird that Bruce Willis's voice is coming out of his mouth. Like, I feel like that's like a suspension of disbelief that's a lot harder than doing it in animation, you know?
That's true, because you're also dealing with, like, you can clearly see that the person's mouth is not moving or making those sounds whatsoever.
Right.
But in animation, it's usually just like lip flaps, fairly neutral shapes, and it's the same.
Right.
It's just open or closed type of thing, you know, with
Right.
some variation. But I don't know. Yeah, I think it's also people are being much more open to the idea of subtitles now, which is
Right.
kind of nice for like people who are like deaf or hard of hearing, and or people with like attention issues, or for whatever reason that the subtitles just make it easier to follow along with things. And so maybe there's also something with that, or like the fact that Parasite's such an art house type film, and they're not wanting to like mess with it, or
Right.
I don't know. I guess that's about Parasite and not about Castle in the Sky.
Right, yeah. So yeah, speaking of Castle in the Sky, we've done very little discussion of the film itself up to this point.
Right.
This is my first time seeing it, and I think it is
too.
for you too, Adeline. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Meanwhile,
I had my Ghibli movies that I watched, but I never really strayed outside of the ones that I watched, because it was a little bit harder to find them. Like, you either got it on DVD or you didn't have it, period. So, like, I had the ones that I had, and then I just really couldn't get any of the other ones.
Yeah,
and
this was actually one of the only ones I had seen or watched for most of my... I don't know how we got a copy of this movie.
Why did we have this movie?
It just kind of manifested in our house one day, I think. I don't know. But, like, I've been watching this movie since I was, like, 12. And it's so funny because even though I watched and loved this movie so much, I didn't see any other Ghibli movies for the longest time. And you know how sometimes your friends in the anime club in high school were a little bit too overexcited?
Right.
Like, I had a few of them that were literally, like, live, eat, breathe Ghibli, and, like, it
Right.
turned me off a little bit. So I've seen, like, the major ones, and I've seen a couple more since, but I still haven't even really touched most of Ghibli. But, like, this specific film is, like, the big one that I have watched, like, so many times. And it's I was actually really excited to find out that you guys had not seen this, because, like,
Right.
I was worried that maybe there's nostalgia glasses going on, since I've just seen this so many times.
Right. No, yeah, and this is a movie that I've always felt like was of incredible, like, cultural import in Japan that just never quite translated to America. Like, it seems like it's one of the lesser known Miyazakis
Yeah. Like,
in our lives, but when, I don't know, it just seems like the kind of thing that you can see just in looking at it, like how influential it was on so many other things in Japanese culture.
yeah.
Like looking at it, like clearly this was super important, but we don't really like it very much over here for some reason.
The Ghibli films, there's so much Japanese politics going on them that can kind of just be absorbed as universal politics, and stuff like pollution is bad and war is terrible and children shouldn't be working in labor and stuff like that. But, like, in this movie, they literally drop a nuclear bomb in the ocean. Like, it's very clear,
Right.
like, the kind of metaphor that we're taking. It's very politically relevant in Japan. So I think, like, it doesn't, not that it doesn't translate to America, because we're the ones that dropped that bomb, but, you know, like, it very obviously rings more true with the Japanese audience than it would with the American audience.
Yeah.
Right.
There was definitely
ahead,
a
Tash.
lot of themes that were kind of interesting that are maybe not as blatantly portrayed in American media, at least at the time, at least, for sure, in the 80s. I mean, there was even if it was kind of sneaky about it, I mean, like, there was a lot of like feminist themes to it too. I just
Right.
realized if we're talking about this and we're like, hey, this is like a Ghibli movie that most people don't know about, or like, should we give a quick like synopsis of the premise?
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, the movie itself is very straightforward, right? I mean, you've
There's
got
a castle in the sky.
there's a
And we're
castle
gonna
and it's
find
in the
it.
sky. But you know, it's like a little girl, and she is like not a princess, but is somehow blood related to something important about this castle in the sky.
Hey, Jackson,
That's
I have
the-
bad
that's
news
the-
for you. She
What?
is the princess.
She is a princess? Do they say that?
Several times.
Wait,
Okay.
are we spoiling or?
Yeah, we're spoiling.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess it was released in 1986.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
if y'all have been sleeping on it
and you clicked
this
on a
long.
podcast for it. You got it.
Right. I mean, look,
True.
it's the kind of thing that, like, in our format, you can't talk for an hour and 20 minutes about a movie without, like, talking about the spoilers of it. It's just,
You know?
I just had to make sure.
Just had to make
sure. Because, like, I was, like, ready to avoid the super spoilery content just to be safe. So.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so it's like a little girl is a princess, but we don't know anything about her or her life, and we don't ever really find out anything about her life before the events of this movie start.
Yeah, she evidently just grew up in a small farming village, and her family all passed away, and then the military came to snatch her up, and now she's been chased back and forth by pirates or army dudes.
Yeah. But so she meets this little boy who lives in a little coal mining town, and then
that shoulder wiggle?
Has a little, I don't know, she's got a little crystal. She's got an Ethereum crystal, which is a string of words that I really hate. And every time they say, like, you have to take the Ethereum crystal, there's like a part of me in the back of my head that's just like, was it called that the whole time? That's the worst. Yeah. And it, like, always caught me off guard every single time.
It's like the magic equivalent of, like, the Marvel science bullshit. It's just like,
yeah, exactly.
You
unobtainium, and vibranium, and Ethereum. It's all the worst. All horrible.
Just say special rock. It's okay.
But yeah, so there's, like, the military, and they want it, and then there's these scrappy pirate family, the Sky Pirate family.
I love them so much.
That wants it too.
I love them.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's like the conflict.
Yeah. I mean, there's two things that really got me, like, the first time watching it is that Ghibli films usually do, if they, depending on the movie, they usually do have, like, violence in them, and there usually is, like, warships and bombs and stuff. But this was the first Ghibli movie where I watched someone just, like, straight up pull out a gun, and I'm gonna say it really, like, took me by surprise.
Right. At the very beginning when she's, like, running through that party with, like, a big Gatling gun, it's just like, everybody get down! And the score is just like, I
know, the score is so heavy.
You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And also, just to clarify, the main protagonist's name, her name is Shira?
Shida.
Okay. Not Shira.
Shira is, that's the He-Man connected show.
Yeah.
It's connected
yeah.
He-Man, right?
But
I
really like her character because she definitely holds that place of, like, the princess archetype. Like, she's very much that, and that's fine. But then she also knocks a man unconscious in the very first scene that she's in with a wine bottle. So, like, she does stuff, and it's great.
Yeah, the first thing we see is her knock a man out, climb out of a window, and hold to maybe an inch's worth of metal on the outside of the airship, and she's trying to creep her way along the outside of the ship with no actual hand or footholds. Like, that's badass
solo.
To me. Yeah.
She jumps off of a moving airplane and just turns into an action hero for just a second, and it's great.
Gosh.
But yeah, like, and there's something about sort of, I don't know, I just want to go back to the score, because I think just in terms of, like, the way they want to portray the tone of what's going on is really interesting to me, because it's got a very different sensibility than the majority of, like, American movies you see, you know? I mean, like I said, when it's, like, this big exciting action sequence at the beginning where these bad guys are, like, breaking into a party and threatening to shoot people, the score is, like, pretty bouncy, and they want you to be like, this is the fun part. Yeah. And it's just interesting, like, and I don't know, I can't name any specific examples off the top of my head, but the whole time I was thinking, like, this just doesn't feel like the way you would score a regular movie in America, you know? A lot of the times the music is sort of going counter to what's happening, but not in, like, an explicitly sort of, it's not like they're trying to throw you off balance with it. It's more like just they want to add another thing to the scene with the music rather than just accentuate what there already is, you know?
Yeah, the score has definitely been one of my favorite parts of this movie for as long as I can remember, and I've been watching this since before I could really, like, fucking tell the difference, you know? Like,
I can really comprehend what's going on in the movie.
Oops. Hold on a second. My Discord apparently doesn't want me to... Oh, there we go. Okay. There one track in particular, though, that just gets me every time is towards the end of the movie. Not to skip ahead too far, but like,
oh, you're good.
Towards the end when the city is collapsing and it switches to that, it's just straight a cappella. It's just a choir singing the theme of Laputa. Here, I've linked it in the chat for you guys too as a refresher. This shit gives me goosebumps every time. I don't know why, but like, yeah, the scoring is just so.
Sorry, just a second. We're just listening.
Yeah, we're all just listening to audio.
I'll probably put it in the podcast. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for that, but, whatever.
Disney
Fuck
isn't
police.
litigious.
No, this isn't even a Disney copyright
Distributed?
anymore,
Oh, okay.
necessarily. No.
Well, then great.
I mean, it was originally, but Miyazaki has been so weird about, like, the distribution rights and the streaming rights and all that kind of stuff of his,
Who knows
of his
anymore?
work that
Is there
it's
like,
not really a Disney property anymore.
you could probably play like a small sample and still have it fall under fair use or something.
Yeah,
like
I think
that,
the rule
right?
is
I mean,
30
look,
seconds.
The way that we do it right now, like we're on YouTube and we're on the podcast, and there's no like
no
systems in
police.
place
We're
for
too high up.
podcasting. Yeah. So I mean, unless somebody like reports us, we'll be fine.
All
But
right,
also
so
on
guys,
YouTube,
don't report us.
but like on YouTube, you they have that whole copyright claim system, but like you don't get taken down, you just don't get any money from it, and it's not like we're making any money off this anyway. So.
That is
like
true.
maybe someday 10 years from now when we're a very successful podcast, I'll smack myself on the forehead and be like, God damn it.
Oh, the Castle
That
in the
Castle
Sky,
in the Sky
one.
episode
That
was the one that was
episode.
really going to get us. It's got more views than any other and we're losing out on it. But,
Gosh.
if that happens, we'll just make you pay for it out of pocket, Tosh.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
But yeah, so I was really struck by like how much, and I think a lot of this can be, one of these like discussions about the differences between Eastern and Western storytelling, but like I was fascinated by how little context we get for so much of what happens.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like it needs to tell you everything that is going on at all times. It's just like it just tells you what you need to know, like the objective of the character right in this moment,
Yeah, and you just like feel immersed anyway.
Right.
I love
and
that.
I was comparing it not because there's any direct comparison, but just because it was a movie I was watching yesterday. I watched High Life, which is this movie is directed by Claire Denis, but it's like this weird artsy sci-fi about Robert Pattinson being like the last person alive on like a prison spaceship, and they're going towards a black hole, but it's like super long and slow and quiet. It's like a very artsy sci-fi movie. And it's also gross because all the main themes are about like rape and like agency over your own body, and there's like a scientist who's like doing fertility experiments on prisoners like against their wills, and it's like this movie's so whack, and there's so much cum in it. Anyway, the point I was making though was that
I don't
that
want
movie
to talk
sort of
anymore. No, Jackson, the podcast is over.
That was the last thing I expected to talk about in a podcast episode about Castle in the Sky, a wholesome Ghibli movie.
It's just the truth. And ask anybody and they'll tell you there's a lot of cum in it. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
But they both sort of operate on the same like narrative kind of principle where it's like they're not telling you everything all the time. You're just supposed to like go along with it and you'll get there. But like the difference is that in High Life, the thing that's missing is that it's not even just the full context. It's that you don't fully understand people's motivations all the time. Like they just do stuff and you're like, I don't know why I should care. Like I don't know what this is or what's going on. But something like Castle in the Sky, it's really specific about the motivations. It shows you just as much as it needs to be like, here's this kid, he wants to do this. It doesn't necessarily matter why he wants to do it per se, but you know that that's what he wants to do, and you become invested in that as an idea, versus just showing somebody doing something and expecting you to just go along with it,
Yeah.
I think it's very much because of the Japanese audience, because Howl's Moving Castle is also a lot like that, where they don't tell you what everyone's motivations are all the time. They're just doing things, and you're just watching them do the things. And that's more interesting because it's based off of an English book. It's a story that already existed. So they're like choosing what to tell you and not what to tell you from this book. So it's very interesting that they leave out a lot of character motivations in that story also. I think it's very much because of the Japanese audience and the way that they watch movies versus how we watch movies. Where, like, we want to know why someone does something. We want to know about everybody's dead parents. We want to know their motivation.
Right.
Well,
kind of like in The Grinch, where they went
Shut
out
up.
of their way
Shut your mouth.
to explain exactly
I'll kill
why
you.
The Grinch was so Grinchy.
I'll
because
kill
of
you.
his dead parents.
Shut up.
Anyway.
Okay, but they're not like because his mother was a seamstress and she never got to see the sight of gold. It's not that. It's just that he was an orphan. It's not about the parents, Jackson.
Well,
We don't know their names. We never see them. They don't matter. It's not a part of it.
real talk though, I think there is definitely and I mean I'm going into game design, like that's what I'm going to school for. And so this is something that is very much like discussed whether you're talking about like a film or a game.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to portray character in a way that, because like you're not going to understand people's every thought and motivation at all times. That would not be good storytelling. So like there's always going to be a sense of that, and that's good because you want to have some surprise and whatever. But I feel like this movie so artfully, like just I can't even put my finger on exactly how and like all the little things that why, but it does so well of conveying the character and their motivations and just their energy, just seeing them and just like the little things that they're doing, like you understand the character and you understand their motivations. And so when they're doing something, it at least makes sense. Like you understand the character and you can see how this lines up. There's so many movies and games out there, and it sounds like kind of like what you were describing, where it's like, you know, things are left out because and they're trying to like keep things hidden from you for like mystery, or like there's a fog of war aspect or whatever. Like you don't know about a thing, but you also don't know or understand these characters whatsoever, so nothing makes sense. They could just kind of do whatever, and it's just plot convenience, and that's frustrating as hell.
Right.
That's so frustrating.
I mean, yeah, like I said, it's like you need to know what they want. That's the most important thing. As long as you as a viewer understand what it is specifically they're trying to do, you'll go along with it, even if you don't necessarily know why, as long as you are very clear on, you know, he wants to find the castle in the sky, and the little girl wants to get away from the pirates. And you're like, yeah, cool. I buy that. That makes sense to me.
And, gosh, like, actually, I lost my train of thought. Forget I was starting to say anything. So.
Well,
okay, cool.
I wanted to backtrack just a little bit when we're talking about, like, how much, like, action is in this movie. Like, it's very much an action, like, set-piece driven movie, like, which is kind of weird for an animated movie. And we talked about this before the podcast, but I say what it really reminds me of is that it reminds me of Treasure Planet. And mainly because Treasure Planet's like whole mission statement was like, it's an animated movie, but it's got action and explosions and guns. Like they were so proud of themselves that they made an animated movie with like explosions in it. And then you have this movie that has just so much action and so much explosions in it. And it's just, this is more talking about Treasure Planet, but I just had that thought. It's weird that they thought that was like a mega original idea, and like this movie has so much action in it, but like it's not like an action movie. Like that's not the selling point. It's actually a very like solemn and thought-provoking movie. Like they don't sell themselves as an action movie, you know?
Yeah. Wait, was that really how Treasure Planet was like marketing themselves and stuff?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
No, because they like, well, first of all, they weren't marketed at all because Disney wanted them to fail. But like in
I'm still upset.
Yeah, like but insularly, like to like the crew themselves like would wear T-shirts. It was like, I don't remember the exact phrases, but it was like Disney movie with explosions, and they were like so proud of themselves for making like an action movie.
I mean, I guess
this is your dad's Disney movie.
Yeah, literally, that's what they were doing.
Really? Oh my gosh! Like, to be fair, I could see that like departure from like Disney princess stuff at the time to like then have like that. And I mean, I love Treasure Planet and all, but yeah, that is kind of weird for that to be like their whole.
Yeah.
What year did Nightmare Before Christmas come out?
That was 1993.
Sorry, I meant to ask what year did Treasure Planet come out, because I was gonna compare it to Nightmare Before Christmas in that way.
Okay.
I think
I was trying to figure out if Nightmare Before Christmas and Treasure Planet came out.
I have the date of when Nightmare Before Christmas came out memorized.
2002, Treasure Planet.
Okay, yeah, so that wouldn't really necessarily be connected. Because I feel like Nightmare Before Christmas was a lot that same kind of way, too. Was like, oh, this is a little twisted. This is a scary Disney movie, you know?
I think that was more of an ego trip on Tim Burton's part.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, but that's the weird thing about Nightmare Before Christmas is that Tim Burton was only tangentially involved, you know?
Yeah.
There was...
I feel like it is a little bit of Tim Burton tooting his own horn. And maybe I think it was Disney tooting Tim Burton's horn for him.
Do you want to take that again?
Tim Burton's horn for him to make a profit. Because the whole thing is that Tim Burton worked at Disney and he fucking hated it. Because they were like, hey, Tim Burton, draw some background, like, foxes for the Fox and the Hound. And then Tim Burton would be like, I don't know how to fucking draw foxes. So he just hated it the whole time. But then while he was working at Disney, he had the idea of the Nightmare Before Christmas. And, like, whatever the rules were at the time, like, if you had an idea while you were working for Disney, that was Disney's idea and you could not do anything with it. So Tim Burton was like, I want to do something with this. And Disney was like, no, you cannot do something with this. And he was like, can you guys do something with this? And they were like, yes, we can. And then they made The Nightmare Before Christmas. So, yeah, Tim Burton really wasn't involved with it because he was making his own movie at the time. And also Disney was just trying to screw him over as much as possible. So,
wow. By the way, this is not relevant to Castle in the Sky.
Right, okay.
We're talking about Nightmare Before Christmas, and this is something I just found out about that I want to say.
Okay.
Henry Selick is apparently, like, the most horrible nightmare of a man to work with.
Oh, really?
And
I never heard that.
Apparently, he literally... I don't remember what studio it was.
Sorry, who did you say? I missed the name you said.
Oh, Henry Selick. He's the guy who directed Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline and other such. Apparently, he made, like, literally, he got 3/4 of the way completed with a movie at, like, Warner Animation or something, like, a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And they just were like, dude, fuck you. Like, we're just cutting everything off. Stop making it. Like, you're mostly done, but you're not going to get to finish this because you are pissing us off so bad.
Wow, I've never heard that.
Like, so fired from that job.
As fired as he could be.
Yeah. It was Graveyard Book. He's making a Graveyard Book movie.
Oh, and I feel like I heard about that.
Yeah, he got, like, most of the way done, and the studio was just like, fuck off. We don't like you at all.
We hate you so much that we're just not making this movie anymore.
Right, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
That's just my favorite thing in the world. Like, he was just enough of an asshole that the studio just threw away, like, $40 million they had spent on the movie.
That is saying a lot, considering the shit that happens in this industry. Like, you really have to try.
You did something. You shot a kid. You did something.
Gosh.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think the narrative was ever like, oh, he did some horrible thing to somebody. Just that he's like an asshole and impossible to work with, and will not compromise on anything, and it's just impossible to get anything done with him.
Wow.
Anyway, Castle in the Sky.
This has become the variety episode featuring Castle in the Sky.
Nah, it's okay. Most of the time. You should listen to our Bugs Life episode. We spend most of it talking about Alien Covenant.
A movie I haven't seen, and we talked about it for like an hour. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. I love this.
But talking about, this is just me appreciating how good Ghibli movies are at the craft of animation and telling stories. Mm-hmm. Like, there are so many minor characters in this movie that we meet for, like, maybe a scene or two scenes, and then we never see them again, but they're just, like, so memorable and, like, so developed in that time. Like, I love the boss, and I especially love the boss's wife. She does, like, two things, but it just tells you so much about her character.
For you. Like...
What?
She's like, I'm not mending that, you know.
I know, it's so good. And then she just like stands outside the door with a frying pan just in case one of them gets too close. It's so good.
Oh, and she's like built like a brick shithouse.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
She had like beefy arms. I was like, damn, lady, that's awesome.
And
I was just
really
so
good.
happy when they started like flexing out of their
I
shirts.
know.
I was like, fuck yeah, this rules. Like,
This is what I wanted.
because it's not something necessary to the plot at all.
No.
It's just like this fun gag where it's just like, oh, they're gonna have a competition to see who can flex the best.
Yeah,
You're
but, like,
hell yeah. They're just like busted out of their clothes with their giant
Well, I think they're
muscles.
really trying to show that the pirates are nothing like the like government goons, even if they have like
Right.
the same goal right now. It's like these guys aren't bad people. They're huge dorks. They're having a flexing competition.
Right.
Like even if they're doing
Yeah.
something bad right now, they're not bad people at all. And I think that scene like really hammers that in because we have to
Right.
like them later, and we do like them later.
Because at this point we think the government and the pirates are like one and the
On
same.
the same
We-
level, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't learned to like differentiate between them yet, and I feel like that's the first step of being like, this is not the same as Mark Hamill's
Yeah.
goons.
Yeah.
Like, the characters are all just so vibrant. Like, you're right. It's insane. And like, I was so worried that so much of this would be clouded for me, having watched this so many times, that I'm like, everything's just kind of like blending together. But like, there was things jumping out at me that hadn't before, where I was just like, oh my gosh, why is that so good? Why
I
is
know.
that like so fun? That's such a clever little thing. And just like little touches that I would notice that they, and like when you see it in animated stuff especially, it's very particular. Like, that stuff is clearly done on purpose because it takes that much longer and you have to plan ahead to put those things in. It's not like an actor like ad-libbing a thing. Like, yeah, when they're including those little character like details, I don't know, the one coming to mind is when Patsu first sees Sheeta like floating down from the sky, and he like rushes up and he still has
like a drone going into a lake.
like
That's really good.
fucking, I'm not gonna unsee that now. But like, something that just kind of struck me as something cute. It's so minor, but like when he was first running up to catch her, he like realized he still had the little like the lunch pail thing with like the meatballs or whatever that he just picked. He still had like the food in his hand. He's like, oh, and he like set it down and then like went to catch her. And it's like, it's just cute. It's funny. It's a kid not thinking things through in the moment, but like he's obviously focused on helping and trying to catch this girl over the food, you know? It's like, just like even little things like that kind of inform the character a bit. But God, I could go on forever about the Dola gang, those pirates.
They're so good.
That
I
old
love
lady
them
and
so
her
much.
large adult sons
I know.
flying around and doing
And
sky
the one
crimes.
that looks like exactly like Travis McElroy for some reason.
Yeah.
I didn't make that connection for sure.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Oh no. I will not be able to unsee that one either.
Yeah.
Hold on just a sec. I'm going to check my notes.
Oh, I thought you were
for
gonna
it.
Google a picture of that one guy.
No. I love something about Miyazaki movies that cracks me up is how like unreasonably friendly the protagonists are always.
I know, yeah.
Like, I think about this one where they're like talking to each other and she's like, check out my cool necklace. And he's like, oh, tight, I'm gonna fucking jump off the cliff. Check me out. And then he just like falls and dies in the
Yeah.
like breaks through a brick building. And then she comes down and is like, oh my God, are you okay? And he's like, haha, yeah, no, it's all right. It was my fault. Like, okay, I guess. Like,
He did jump off of the building. I mean,
yeah.
Like,
but it's just like,
Stupid
instead of being
kids,
like,
yeah.
ow, fuck. He's like, no, it's okay. That's funny. I've got a real hard
Yeah.
head. You're like, what the fuck? Who are you?
I
Why are you
really
like this?
think it has to do with the fact that a lot of Ghibli's main characters are children. Like, because he really enjoys telling stories for children, specifically for girl children. Children who are also girls. But yeah, so yeah, they are super overly friendly, and it's because that's such that's such a little kid thing to do as someone who babysits, for him to just be like, I think this will allow me to jump off of the cliff. Allow me to jump off the cliff. And then he jumps off the cliff. Like, that, like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it felt like it really is just kind of in line with all the wholesome shit that's already in there. Along with, like... But, like, they weren't completely friendly to just everybody all the time. Like, they were, at least in this one compared to some of the other Ghibli ones or other just, like, children's media, I guess. Like, they're not just nice to everyone to a fault. I like that they're like, these nasty pirates. And then, like, later they befriend them. But then, like, they're, like, aggressive towards the army and stuff. They're like...
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of strangers in this movie. Most of the characters that we meet are characters that they know. Like, we meet the boss and his family, so of course they're friendly to them. And then we meet the old man in the mine, and of course we're nice to them because we know who that is, because it's a small town and we know everybody. So I think that is a part of why everybody seems so nice. I think it's telling you that this is a very close-knit community. And then when you have, like, people like the pirates, they're like, oh, you dirty pirates. Like, they're not nice to everybody. They're nice to people that they obviously have a relationship with.
Do you want to talk about the big robot?
I knew you were going to love the big robot. The second we saw the big robot, I was like, Jackson's going to love that big robot.
I have shed so many tears over that big robot. You don't know.
But it's like, it's this incredible, like, action set piece.
Oh, yeah.
That I think is, like, perfectly timed, because it comes right at the time where I was like, okay, like, what's going on? Like, pick it up. Yeah. And then they picked it up. There was a big robot.
They did. They threw a big robot at you.
Yeah. But one of the things that really stood out to me about it, though, was that it feels like a lot of the time when you have, like, a big indestructible object in a movie, it's like everything just bounces off of it, either forever or until you figure out what the one thing is you can do to hurt it, you know?
Perfect weak spot, and then you just one-hit KO.
Right. Or not even that, it's more like, oh, we need to change our strategy and do this instead. But I like that this, like, feels like a real object in the sense that it's, like, it's really durable and, like, bullets bounce off of it because it's strong enough. But when they hit it with a big enough thing, it finally does do some damage to it, you know? Like, the fact that they just shot a big missile at him and it, like, knocked him out and put a big dent in him.
Yeah.
I feel like in something in the storytelling that I'm, like, more used to, it's more like that would also not work because it's a big, scary, indestructible thing. The big missile wouldn't work, but it does in this movie. I don't know. That's just an interesting...
I absolutely love that shot where, like, the smoke clears and they show you the robot after the first big missiles hit it, and it's just, like, out cold with that giant dent in its chest. Like, it's it's so good because you think, oh, they killed it, and then it just fucking stands right back up again. It's so good. Like, the thing is scary. And the way that it, like, blows things up, it doesn't just, like, blow it up. It, like, melts and then explodes and it catches fire and, like, oozes everywhere. Like, the amount of, like, destruction that it causes, you just, like, you feel that destruction. Like, you are genuinely worried about, like, everybody in a 10-mile radius because this thing is so destructive.
Right. No, there's a lot of destruction in this movie. Not even just from the robot, like, throughout. It's like, there seems like a pretty big body count in these events.
It's amazing that they still find a way to keep it just soft enough where, like, kids aren't completely, you know, mortified and all like, oh my gosh, all these, like, they keep the death just enough off screen, but, like, you still know. And but yeah, like, the other thing, and, like, level with you guys, like, I am a huge sucker. I am very biased for, like, robots and robot characters in, like, anything. I always gravitate to them for some reason. I like robots.
I like the big robot.
And it always pisses me off when because, like, you can portray them in so many different ways, and when it's always just like big scary weapon thing, I guess, like, whatever, you know, like, it's always just like but, like, this it like, it can't speak. It didn't have hardly any screen time, you know, compared to but, like, the amount of emotion and, like, the connection that that it had with Sheeta there was really like impacting. And like on me as a kid especially, like I cried every time.
Yeah.
That thing was blown up.
Because you see Sheeta's like you see her whole thing of like being scared of it, and then like realizing that's trying to help her, but then still realizing that it's incredibly dangerous, but then still realizing that it's still trying to protect her. Like you could, like Sheeta is very conflicted about how to feel about this robot, and at the end of the day she's really sad that it had to do all that, and it did all of that because of her. So yeah, like even though it is the big scary robot, it has such another side of it that we get to like fully develop even in that super short scene.
Yeah, and I mean I like that they are committed to having it actually be like a nonverbal robot, because you know it's not like R2-D2 where it's like beep boop bop and they're like, what's that, R2? Titty's in the well? Like they don't ever have to do anything like that. It's just like oh, he's a big guy and he doesn't say anything, and you're like good, I'm glad.
Cool.
I'm glad
I didn't want him to say anything.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I already said Timmy's stuck in the well, but like robots turn into Lassie so often.
They do.
It's like
they
I kind of
really
like that. It's just like he doesn't speak. He's not a guy.
Yeah. The random trivia thing I just remembered. Just fun side note, but because that robot is obviously a very iconic part of this movie, and so even like we said, how this movie seems to get forgotten or like shoved to like the end of the list usually, like that robot shows up in a lot of places, and there's actually an Easter egg for it in Iron Man Age of Ultron.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, from when the I don't know.
The Laputa robot. It's actually I think it's in the scene when Ultron first kind of like becomes Ultron or whatever.
Right.
I just remember there's a panning shot in the workshop and everything. You have some like stuff in the foreground, but it's like panning and you're like focusing off in like to the hallway or like elsewhere in the workshop. But just in that foreground area, you can actually see like the arm of the Laputa robot. Like there's a statue of that robot in the workshop.
I was gonna say no. I kind of thought of Age of Ultron in this movie at the end when it's like all crumbling and falling down. It looks a lot like that sequence where like Sokovia is like crumbling and he's like Ultron's turned it into a meteor that's falling down. And like I don't know. And now that I know that too,
crazy.
Like there's gotta be that has to have part of been their like, visual inspiration. Yeah.
I'm just talking about like the total destruction and like the body count. It's because a lot of it is like implied destruction and implied body count, but when you get to the end of the movie with like when he's like killing everybody and that shot of where he opens the floor so that all of the soldier guys like fall out of it, like it's so it's scary and you can see them like trying to like run. And I love the shot of all the soldiers trying to get on the ship as it's flying away, and they've got like the connecting bridges that are full of people, and you just see the connecting bridges like break as it flies away. Like it's so good. Like even the army that's been a villain this whole time is just like seeing them just get absolutely destroyed is like horrifying.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a quick sidebar. Speaking of things that this movie definitely inspired, I also thought a lot of Pokemon the movie 2000. And
oh shit!
I don't have anything meaningful to say about that besides that, Adeline, we briefly talked about how we should do Star Wars movies. I think we should wait on that and we should do Pokemon movies
You're
first.
You're so
instead.
right.
Oh my gosh.
I really think we should do Pokemon movies. Anyway, that's all. Looks like Pokemon the movie 2000. Where he's like in the big ship and Zapdos and Articuno and Moltres are flying around. That's what the castle in the sky looks like.
Great.
I forgot about that. You're right. What the
Yeah, man. Pokemon the movie 2000. I watched it semi-recently and it wasn't that good. Did not hold up.
Yeah, because they were like, there was like the Pokemon streaming service for like a minute and it had some stuff on
That's
it.
right. Yeah. I forgot about that.
For like literally like maybe a week there was a Pokemon streaming service and then it completely vanished. I don't know where it is anymore.
I wonder if that's still happening.
I don't know.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, I'm seeing some similarities here. I had to like look up because I have not seen that movie in years, but it even had like light, like the spikes pop out of the bottom, like dome, and like electricity and shit like fly down. Like that's totally, that has to be.
I always forget it, but Jackson, it's the second Pokemon movie that has Entei in it, right? Or is it the third?
No, it's the third one.
It's the third one.
The first one is Pokemon the first movie with Mew and Mewtwo. The second one is Pokemon the movie 2000
with the legendary birds.
And then after that was Pokemon whatever the third one's called. That's the one with Entei.
Pokemon 3, the movie.
Yeah.
No, it's something of the unknown.
Tomb of the Unknown?
No.
Hold on. Pokemon 3.
Revenge of the Unknown.
Revenge of the Unknown. Unknown Reloaded.
Into the Unknown.
Okay, here's the title. Pokemon 3, the movie, Entei, Spell of the Unknown.
Spell of the Unknown.
Yes,
Entei,
okay. All right. This is a bit now. I'm looking at the list of Pokemon movies.
All right.
So, like we said, Pokemon the first movie, Pokemon the movie 2000.
Yeah, because it came out in the year 2000, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Pokemon 3, according to Wikipedia, it just says Pokemon 3, the movie - Spell of the Unknown.
I like the cool Entei.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. Pokemon 4 is Pokemon Forever, Celebi, voice of the forest.
Oh my gosh.
Is that the one where Celebi dies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because that was one of the earliest movies I ever saw in theaters.
Oh, yeah.
Because the little indie movie theater in town was showing it, and I saw it with Caitlin Lockhart at age 6 or 7. Yeah, it came out in 2003, so I guess I was 5 when I saw it. And then after that they kind of aren't as funny after that. Pokemon Heroes, Latios and Latias.
Pokemon Heroes.
This next one is just, they stopped calling it Pokemon even after that. The next movie is just called Jirachi, Wishmaker.
Oh my gosh.
As if Jirachi is the star of the movie.
The Rise of Jirachi.
That sounds like the freaking, the next JRPG from,
Yeah. Jirachi, Rise of the Songkeepers, Definitive Edition X.
It sounds like Kojima's next game.
Yeah.
Destiny Deoxys.
I remember that one, because Deoxys, fucking destroys a whole city, and it's rad.
Yeah. I remember that Munchlax was in that one.
Yeah.
I think I watched it on TV. Lucario and the Mystery of Mew.
Where Lucario's just a fucking dude who's just, hanging out. And he's like, I want to kill you, Ash, or something. I don't remember. But he's just walking around like he's a dude.
I'm just looking through. I'm trying to see if there's anything else of note. There was the one time when they made 2 movies at the same time that were, the black and white versions, like the video games. And they were the same movie, except for, slight differences and, certain characters and stuff. I don't know why they did that.
Weird. That's weird.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
having 2 variations is a cool concept, but if they change 2 things, that's
a movie.
But I mean, because it's supposed to mimic the Pokemon games, right? I don't know. We gotta watch those ones. I'm trying to figure out if we start doing Pokemon movies, how many we want to do, because we can't do.
At what point does it stop being fun?
Right, exactly. If you count Detective Pikachu, as of this point, there's 23 movies.
That's a lot of movies.
That's a lot of movies. That's a whole podcast on its own.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, they do one every year and a half since 1995. So, okay. Anyway, where were we at? Pokemon the movie 2000 is ripped off Castle in the Sky.
Yes. One last thing I just want to toss in before we continue jumping around to different parts of the movie, but the general art and aesthetic, what did you guys think of the cool the disconnect between the general world and technology, whether in the town or in Laputa or whatever, but compared to the military fortress and the ships and stuff?
Mm-hmm. I thought it was really cool that the military base looked a lot like the Castle in the Sky. I thought that was kind of cool. It was kind of telling you that the Castle in the Sky was gonna kind of be bad news before we even really saw the Castle in the Sky, because they both got those big rounded domes and they're both basically castles. So yeah, I saw that similarity and I was like, ooh, they're telling me things through visuals.
I just want to ask a question for clarification. I must have just missed something. Yeah. But at the end, I totally thought their plan was to blow up the castle and be oh, this is too dangerous and there's not anybody here, so it has to be destroyed.
Yeah.
But then they kind of don't. They just kind of blow up the bottom half of it.
Yeah.
What was the deal with that?
As someone who didn't know what was going on, what I thought it was that they were like, we gotta destroy this whole place because it could fall into the wrong hands and then be evil. So like, even if there is good here, we have to destroy all of it, or there will only be bad. And so they're like, we gotta do it, and then the destroy. I don't know, and then only the good part survives somehow, and the bad part is destroyed.
Right.
Yeah, I will say that I think that part is left fairly ambiguous, probably on purpose, but I do think that, I mean, the kids know it's a spell of destruction, but they don't necessarily know exactly what that means or what that would entail. And so
That's
I think
true,
they were just more than anything counting on having to, even if they had to sacrifice themselves, they had to take out Muska.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
Muska, Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. And I think,
Wow.
it was appropriate, though, that it was kind of, I think all of the military and, like, weaponry shit seemed to all be kind of in that bottom half anyway. And the upper part was just the garden. I think maybe that's the insinuation, because that huge tree was what was kind of holding the rest together.
Right.
And that's where, like, the crystal shot up to, is that it just saved the garden. So it was almost like it purified it, maybe, or it only saved the good life part of it. I don't know.
Right.
Well, I thought it was weird is that they established that destruction spell is super on and like super early on, and she even says it's like, my grandma told me to never ever do this spell because it's so evil, and I have to know some evil magic in order to learn good magic, because that's just how magic works. But it didn't seem that evil when it actually happened. It was just like, boom, the stuff got destroyed.
Yeah.
Well,
here's a joke I wrote down. I thought it would be funny if at the end, when he's like, whisper the destruction spell to me, if she just like said the destruction spell and just like Fuzro dawed his brains out. That would be funny, I think.
Okay, Jackson.
Just like said the spell
gosh.
and it blew him up.
What if she just had like a gun and shot him? That would be hilarious.
But like, because she said the spell, it like blew him up because she's saying the spell.
What if
and to
Mario
do it.
had like a gun? Would that be hilarious?
That would also be hilarious.
And he
That would
shoots
also be funny.
Luigi and he's like, I'm on the mushrooms because it's like a drug. What if that... Do you ever think about comedy?
Not... Yes, I do. I do very often. More often than you do, Adeline. So I know, Adeline, you and I were watching the same version.
Yeah.
There just weren't any credits in it. Is that
Really?
normal?
you guys didn't have a credit sequence?
I had to stop the movie to start recording this podcast, like, right as, like, the movie ended, so I didn't see the credits.
Oh.
Because it just showed me, like, the thing in the sky, and you,
picture of
like,
the
saw
tree.
the world, like, going by around it.
Yeah.
But
We
there
also
weren't
did
any-
watch a bootlegged version.
Right.
So
No, shush.
maybe-
No, we
Oh.
didn't.
We
But there
dogs.
just weren't any credits there. It was just that imagery for, like, 3 minutes, and then it ended.
Well, what you're describing was the background, so I guess the version you had just for whatever reason didn't have
credits.
credits.
That's so weird. Why was it like that? Okay, fine.
How did they do that? Why did they do that?
I have no idea.
Why would you go out of your way to do that? Like, why wouldn't you just cut... If you didn't want to include the credits,
Right.
just stop the movie before the credits roll. Why did they
Right,
keep the
yeah.
background and take the credit? That's weird.
They
That's
there's a
left
song,
the
I
credits out
guess.
because they're like, hey, I made this.
my name is
mine.
Kid
I
Cartoon,
did
and
it.
I made this movie.
Plagiarism.
Do we want to talk about Mark Hamill's character at all? Because he's kind of been left out. Is there anything we want to say about him?
Bad.
I really
He's the
enjoyed
bad
it.
guy.
He's a bad guy.
He's the bad guy.
I enjoyed his character because, like, as a kid, it was very easy to just be like, oh, bad guy. And, like,
Right.
you know, you've seen it once, you know he's the bad guy. And so just, like, seeing everything he does, like, bad guy.
Yeah.
That's
But,
bad
like,
guy.
I know.
Like, but seeing the nuances of it and how, even though we see, you know, the pirates as bad guys at first, they're clearly not. They become awesome. And then even the army, while misguided, you realize that they're not, like, bad either. Like, they're not great, but they're kind of, if anything, and kind of just a neutral, greedy entity.
Right.
And seeing
They're being led
all-
astray by Mark Hamill.
Yeah, a
By
greater
Muska.
evil.
Yeah, being able to, like, understand more as time goes on, just how manipulative this bastard is as time goes on.
Right.
Like,
Well,
it's interesting.
what really struck me about him is, like, how his relationship with Sheeta, like, later we find out it's because they're both related to the people that used to live here. But, like, the whole movie, like, just the way that he, like, talks to her and, like, is just, like, totally comfortable with just, like, grabbing her and throwing her around. Like, it just really, like, usually with villains in animated movies, at least, like, they're always, like, evil, but they're always kind of, like, evil but far away. Like, they're never, like, confronting the character so directly. Like, usually it's through magic or through something that they're doing. They're not, like, directly attacking the character. And for him to just be, like, totally comfortable with just, like, grabbing her, like, throwing her around is, like, really, really effective and being scary. Yeah. And God, the scene where he fucking shoots off her braids and goes, your ears are next, is so good.
So good. That fucking... Which, like, it really does serve as, like, the good foil to just, like, enhance how awesome Sheeta's character is. Because I know a lot of times, like, characters that have, you know, feminine qualities or, like, maybe conform to stuff that is traditionally considered, like, the feminine thing. Like, she's still subverting those archetypes, usually, like, throughout the movie. And so, and seeing her being able to, like, face him down... She, like, tosses the stone out to Patsu, and she's, like, willing to, like, just die to, like, make sure that it gets out of there and all that stuff. Like, and then just the fact that she's, like, I don't know how old she is, but they're not that old. They are like kids.
12. Yeah, they're very clearly described as children, so yeah.
Yeah, and, like, the fact that she, at that age, living on, like, a farm her whole life and having everything, like, taken away from her, and then being, like, sent on this whole, like she's like, she grows so much braver as the time goes on, but it's still just mind-boggling to me that she's willing to not only face down this adult man, this manipulative guy who's, like you said, willing to just, like, throw her around. He's clearly been, like, you know, very manipulative and abusive in various ways, like, throughout however long they've known each other. But she's still willing to not only face him down, but, like, die to make sure that he can't get his hands on this and, like, destroy the world and shit. Like, that is so crazy to see that kind of heroism.
Pokemon the movie 2000.
Shut up. Yeah. See, I love how Miyazaki, usually with, like, his female characters, he makes a point of, like, and how they're designed is that they're supposed to look like little girls. And I really like that. Like, whenever she's wearing a dress, it's very much like the Ghibli, like, A-line kind of amorphous dress, where it's like, it's not about what she's wearing, it's just, like, what she's doing, and it's got this pretty movement to her. But then I love that she changes into pants, and that's kind of a little thing, but it's also kind of an important thing, because a lot of characters, especially in animation, they don't let the women wear pants, because skirts are fun to animate and because it shows you a lot about the character. But the fact that they let her change into pants, for me, was like, that's really good. I love that outfit.
And the fact that Dola was the one that gave them to her.
I know, it's really good.
I legitimately...
Super quick, can I divert us back to Pokemon for, like, just a second? I will admit, I kind of spaced out for a second, and I was looking at that Pokemon Wikipedia page again.
Yep.
Here's something whack. When we got to the Sun and Moon generation, they didn't make any, like, sequels to, like, the regular Pokemon continuity. They started the alternate continuity with the Pokemon movies, which includes the 20th movie called I Choose You and the 21st movie called The Power of Us.
Well, because I know in the Sun and Moon it was like Ash again, but it was like origin story Ash again. It was like rebooted Ash. It wasn't the same one.
Right.
What? That's so... I have not kept up with these, and that's really mind-boggling to me.
Well, because I saw people watching the Sun and Moon anime and being like, this is really fun, and I really like the characters in the animation, because Sun and Moon had such fun characters. But then they were like, yeah, like Ash is there. Ash is the main character, but it's like 10-year-old Ash again. It's not gritty adult Ash who sacrificed himself for his Pokemon like 12 times.
I'm trying to figure out if this is the same.
Now I'm here for vengeance.
This is my friend Lucario. He's here to kill me.
I'm trying to figure out
shit up.
if it's the same continuity as the TV show or if it's a separate, different continuity.
Just like a totally separate thing. I don't know.
Or if continuity means anything at all in
anything
these motherfuckers.
Anymore, anything.
Has Ash ever not been 10 years old?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I think he's just like an eldritch abomination at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, here's some shit. The next Pokemon movie scheduled. There's not an English name for it yet.
Okay.
But as of right now, it's just called Pocket Monsters the Movie: Coco. Is it a remake of Coco?
They go to the land of the dead, and Pikachu finds his great-great-grandpa.
Ash communicates with all his dead Pokemon and learns about the value of family and music.
The power of music learns about the love of family.
Right. Why is it called that? There's not a Pokemon called Coco. What does that mean? Why?
Maybe it's somebody's name?
What
like in
this?
Coco?
Okay, here's some weird promo art I just found. Can I...
Yeah.
Wait, hold on a second. It's not letting me just straight up, like...
Drag it.
Yeah, so I have to... Look at this shit. This is apparently... the friend character for this, but it's like...
Oh, I see.
A jungle tribe, like, primitive...
A jungle kid?
What?
So
What
I guess
are we
probably
doing?
his name is Coco. It's a
Okay.
movie about
I know nothing about this, but I'm calling
Ash
it
meeting
now.
a feral street youth in the jungle.
Coco's a Pokemon.
That-
They've
Yeah.
had people transform into Pokemon and vice versa.
That's
That
what
has
you
been
think?
a thing that has canonically happened multiple times throughout this freaking...
What Pokemon would he be, though?
He's probably like a freaking new legendary. He's either the Pokemon or he's connected to it, or it's one of those plot twists where he seems connected to it, but it's like, just kidding, I am the Pokemon.
No,
And
Right.
he's the dog with the sword in its mouth, actually.
That's him. It's his...
Wait, he's the dog with the gun in its mouth.
Oh,
Yeah, this is the
Pokemon
third
gun.
one.
good option. I remember when Sword and Shield was announced, someone jokingly made a Pokemon gun, but some magazine got super confused and thought that was the third Pokemon game. So there was some like official Japanese magazine that had Pokemon Sword, Shield, and Gun in it.
Oh my god!
That's so good.
Incredible. Freaking... Oh, people are commenting on this saying Pokemon Tarzan, but there's more pictures. It shows
Right.
this
I mean,
kid
you
as
do
a
have
baby.
Grookey, because Grookey is Big Ape Man, and
He
love
doesn't look
him.
like... If he were a Grookey, he would have green hair.
Yeah, you're right.
It's true. I bet he was
Yeah,
raised
no,
by
maybe
Grookey.
it's shiny Grookey.
Whatever, fine.
This is
Do we want to start wrapping this up? What are our final thoughts
Sure.
on Castle in the Sky?
How long have we been recording?
Oh
2
gosh.
days?
Hour and 20 minutes?
Yeah,
Oh,
no, it's a
that's-
perfectly reasonable.
We have a lot of tangents, so like,
Ew.
which is fine by me. I
On
have
brand.
hella ADHD, so this is my natural state.
But yeah, I think this movie is, first of all, a great Ghibli film. I feel like it follows a lot of the things that people love about the other Ghibli films. And, like, I had never watched it or really heard about it other than when people do, like, those full list of, like, Ghibli movies. And, like, I really like it. I'll probably watch it again. I really love the characters. And just like every other Ghibli movie, it makes me want to eat eggs because they just animate eggs so perfectly.
I've
Director
been eating
trademark.
a lot of eggs and toast recently, I'm not gonna lie.
Eggs are good. Eggs are
They
good
are
as
good.
shit.
Yeah. I don't know. I've said multiple times that I know I'm biased as hell about this, but this is definitely one of my top favorite movies of all time. It's definitely influenced my art style as an artist too, like at various points, but it's like consistently one of the biggest inspirations for me for just like characters and stuff. And I'm pretty sure that Dola, the pirate captain lady, is my favorite character in any piece of fiction ever.
Oh, yeah.
Like it would be very easy to just, yeah, she's my fave.
Yeah.
Like that's not an exaggeration. God. It's so
Okay, you guys
fun.
keep talking for a second while I look up a good review to finish this off.
Sweet.
In my notes, when the robot like started to wake up, I just wrote down on my piece of paper, "real big boy hours," and that's it.
God.
At some point, I need to listen to Find Us Alive, because I think everyone that I talk to on a weekly basis is either making it or watches it, so I feel like I should probably be a part of that.
We're about to hit some real fun shit, so it's definitely a good time to get into it. One random piece of foreshadowing that I somehow did not notice fully in all of the like millions of times I've seen this, but when Muska, like after they rescue Sheeta and like the robot gets wiped out and then he finds the crystal in the rubble, he picks it up and the light is still directing to Laputa, but the light shines directly into the center of his forehead, like a fucking like sniper sights, like literally that like Laputa's gonna be the death of you dumb motherfucker. Like that's
good.
I don't know, something about that I like totally did not know.
I mean, the fact that the light like hits him is defo means something.
Okay, I found a good one. So hey, do you guys want to hear a 1-star review of Castle in the Sky from Letterboxd.com?
Maybe I don't actually.
This isn't a 1-star review, it's a 1.5-star review.
Okay.
But this person said, "Just did not work for me. Maybe it was the lack of raccoons or something, but maybe I just didn't gel with it. But I just couldn't get into this storyline."
What's this username?
Not enough raccoons for this person. No, I'm not going to dox them. I'm not going to keep doing that.
Is there something about raccoons in their username?
No,
is this Raccoon Man?
No.
Well, luckily for them, Pompoko or whatever that one is called exists, and that's literally nothing but raccoons. So
So great news for this person. They're gonna have the time of their life.
Hey, man,
okay, let me just say, I looked at their profile, their top 4 movies. None of them got raccoons in them.
Don't have raccoons in them?
Well, wait, does Oliver and Company have a raccoon in it?
One of their favorite movies is Oliver and Company?
Is Oliver and Company, yes. Just answer my question. Are there any raccoons?
No, I don't think there are any raccoons in Oliver and Company.
I'm pretty sure it's just cats and dogs. But those are basically the same thing, right?
Yeah, if I've learned anything.
Hey, they know what they want. They're living life.
They're like, you know what? I came here for raccoons, and there weren't any, so you get the score that you get.
Yeah.
Anyway, my name's Jackson McMurray.
My name's Adeline McMurray.
And I'm Tasch Ritter.
Yeah, and this is No Nerds Allowed.
There are no nerds allowed. I'm gonna say it again. We should probably stop. Yeah, Dabby.
I don't know, you guys didn't dab enough during this episode for that to be
I know, we established a lot of dabbing. We put the dabbing on the mantle and then didn't resolve it by the third act.